Today, my sentence of 7 years bad luck ends for that mirror I broke in a Denny's restaurant by accident in Vineland, New Jersey. According to authorities, I'll still be on probation, though, for the next 16 months, with an ankle monitor on. But the good news is, I'm no longer burdened with the knowledge of my curse, freeing up more of my mental bandwidth for The Daniel Natal Show. What is a belief? According to philosopher David Hume, a belief is an idea elevated up to the level of a sense impression, when you haven't actually had the sense impression. Imagine being told that a monster lives under your bed. You've never actually seen the monster, but through constant mental repetition, you've come to believe that the monster is there. Hume writes, "A coward whose fears are easily awakened readily assents to every account of danger he meets with, as a person of a sorrowful and melancholy disposition is very credulous of everything that nourishes his prevailing passion." A coward, says Hume? Spinoza said that there are two types of emotions, active emotions and passive emotions. He points out that passion and passive have the same Latin root. Of the passive emotions, or passions, he lists things like pain, awe, and cowardice, among others. Of the active emotions, he lists courage, fortitude, and high-mindedness. So going by Spinoza, a passive person is going to be more inclined to cowardliness than an active person. Active people are courageous. Passive people abandon themselves to emotions which render them powerless. Now let's return to Hume. He says that a coward is given to believing any idea that feeds his cowardice. He will elevate that idea up to the level of a sense impression, even when he never actually saw the object of his fear. He will nevertheless treat it as if it happened in real life, when in fact it never left his imagination. John Stuart Mill, in Considerations on Representative Government, says that a republic requires an active population, people who vote, do jury duty, participate in their communities, and so forth. All that a tyranny requires is passivity and obedience, he says. Mill asserts that when an active person sees a fault in himself, he changes it. When a passive person, by contrast, sees a shortcoming in himself, he blames others. Grievance culture, therefore, is entrainment to condition people to be passive. I didn't fail. The system of white supremacy and patriarchy made me fail. This is the sort of training you'd expect in a tyranny. People are conditioned to externalize their power and to hand it off to someone else. This is why Hume's words about the coward believing any idea he's been given, any fear that feeds his cowardliness, and he will elevate it up to a sense impression, as if he'd seen it in real life, when he never had. During the Black Death in the 1300s, people didn't have to be told there was a pandemic. The bodies were all around them, piled up in the street. Since 1/3 to 1/2 of Europe died within a 3-month period, everyone knew someone who passed away. They didn't need to wear a costume to remind them of a crisis. The crisis was obvious and all around them. But given the historical stage that we're at, and given the passivity of the populace, it would make sense that, unlike in the time period of a republic, where we have courageous people, we have a population of passive people, cowards. And cowards are susceptible to hypochondria. They will believe anything that feeds their fear, no matter how little actual evidence there exists to support it. Hume warned about the power of custom and habit to override reason when a lie has been told enough times. He writes, "Men will scarce ever be persuaded that effects of such consequence can flow from principles which are seemingly so inconsiderable, and that the far greatest part of our reasonings, with all our actions and passions, can be derived from nothing but custom and habit." Hume understood that an idea can acquire the power of a sense impression, of an experience, through sheer repetition of the idea, until it created a habit. Let's call it a new normal. Kind of like a liar who repeats a lie so often that eventually he comes to believe it himself. This is how propaganda works. Propaganda pioneer Walter Lippmann wrote, "Without some form of censorship, propaganda in the strict sense of the word is impossible. In order to conduct propaganda, there must be some barrier between the public and the event. Access to the real environment must be limited before anyone can create a pseudo-environment that he thinks wise or desirable." So the actual world is removed, to be replaced by what computer scientists would call a sandbox, an artificial environment that the propagandist wishes to mentally erect in the mind of the coward. It's easy to scare such people into compliance, and sadly, fear has been a powerful tool of the ruling elite. H.L. Mencken said, "The whole aim of practical politics is to keep the populace alarmed, and hence clamorous to be led to safety, by an endless series of hobgoblins, most of them imaginary." As citizens of the Republic, we have to be more courageous, less given to fear, and being so, we're less susceptible to manipulation, less cut off from the actual environment. Toward that end, we will be able to discern between the hype we see on TV and the hypochondria that our oligarchs are trying to induce in the public. A cowardly population of passive people is susceptible to social control through fear. Like an elephant who as a baby could be chained to a stake in the ground. As an adult, the elephant could easily uproot the stake and obtain its liberty. But because of what Hume calls custom and habit, the elephant allows itself to be tricked and held fast to a restraint that it could easily overcome if it just tried its own strength. Citizens of the Republic, you have the strength. You have the power. Tug on your chains. See how easily the stake is yanked up when you bother to test it.
Let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Nameless, unreasoning, unjustified terror.
Could reading the New American Magazine boost your heart health, support your immune system, and help you lose 20 pounds of unsightly fat? The answer is no. But you should read it anyway. It'll keep you informed and provide information that cuts through the noise of lesser news outlets. TheNewAmerican.com. And don't forget to subscribe to us on social media and hit that like button.